you are watching replay, please hashtag replay. I'm Grace Harris, your host. I'm an author of Become the Woman of Your Dreams, which is a memoir, the very first true story ever written about the epidemic of child abandonment in the Philippines. I'm also an international speaker on women empowerment. And today I want to share with you on how to speak from the heart. Now, the one thing that is always going to be the number one thing that I will suggest in anything that you do, whether that's speaking, whether that's writing a book, whether that's holding a session, a coaching session with your client, or holding a healing space with your clients, or holding an actual classroom space with your colleagues, with your students, is your intention. As with anything, speaking is about why do you want to speak. You know, there are so many different intentions that you can employ before you walk into your space of speaking. And whether you want to inform people, whether you want to rule people and give them some instructions, whether you want to just become someone who's just downloading data, or do you want to inspire people or motivate people, or even further, do you want to transform them? Because your intention is always going to lead the way of how your energy will come up when you try to speak on stage or on camera. Now, given if you are not intentional, if intention is something that you don't practice, you may have actually noticed in your talks or in your training sessions that it is a little bit misdirected, and you tend to be reactive rather than proactive in what you are delivering. So intention is something that I love to create in a space, first and foremost, in whatever I do. And if it's something that you don't know exactly how to implement, it's very simple. So intention can be something that you just think about and express to yourself quietly and silently, or intention can be something that you write on your journal. I write my intentions every day. Or intention is something that you actually verbally say with your listeners. You can say something like, the way that I love to have these talks, or the way that we're going to do this today, and what we want to get out from today. So it's setting up the space so that your energy as a collective becomes non-egoic, but really an energetic intention coming not just from your heart, but from everyone's interactive energy. So that's the very first thing about how to speak from your heart, because I see a big gap when it comes to speakers that are being trained in many different ways, especially in traditional and professional presentation way, that it's about you've got to get the information, you've got to get the data correctly, you have to actually make sure that everything is accurate. Well, that's all well and good, but if you don't have an intention of what the outcome going to be, or what the energy is going to be, then everything is going to be meaningless. So intention is about creating the meaning and what the vibe is going to be. So hi Ellen, good morning and good evening from your end. Thank you for being here. Love that you are watching the show today. So other than intention, the next thing that is really about speaking from your heart is knowing that speaking is not so much about speaking per se, but it's about sharing your truth. And so speaking is only the vehicle to share the truth, but there are so many other ways that you can share the truth other than words in your speaking. You have to remember that when you communicate, it's 55% body language, 38% voice tonality, and 7% words. So the words are almost negligible. So it doesn't matter how good your words are, if you don't have the correct body language, and if you don't have the voice tonality to go with that, with what you're trying to say. I could say to you, I love you, or but there's no feelings there, and there's no body language. I could say I love you, but I'm really closed up. So speaking has got nothing to do with speaking per se, especially speaking from the heart. It really is an overall holistic presentation of who you are, your energy, your body, your voice tonality, and then a little bit of your words. Like, bearing in mind, I am a non-English speaking person. I was born and raised in the Philippines, and I didn't actually move to Australia until I was 24, 25. And so for me to speak my truth, which I was referring to in the first point of this show, for me to speak my truth was not only daunting, not only intimidating, but I also had the layer of, can I really express my truth in a way that my environment is going to capture what I'm trying to convey? Because I grew up speaking a completely different language, a completely different dialect. But because I know the truth that I want to share, and it's got nothing to do with words, but it's about the feeling that I want to give to you, the inspiration, that light bulb moment that you too can change your life. Like if I can do what I do or how I did to change my life, then so can you. And it has nothing to do with the words in my speaking. And so I hope that's giving you some insight about how do you speak from your heart so you are not in fear, because that's the next point that I was going to cover, is that fear of being, when you speak, either it's on camera or on stage or on the phone or on recording on a podcast, and when you have the fear of being embarrassed, fear of being judged, or fear of being laughed at, what I learned and what I found from my own training and from my own experience and from my own teachings in my speaking students is that the fear of being judged, the fear of feeling ridiculed and feeling embarrassed or being laughed at is really the shadow side of us. You know, the little me or the little us that's trying to protect us from a feeling of rejection, from a feeling of abandonment, from a feeling of being unloved, from a feeling of not belonging. And that's where that fear is coming from. Now, let me ask you a question though. Let me ask you this question when it comes to fear. When you see someone, either a child or an adult, a woman, whatever it may be, on a street, and they're about to get run over by a car, and they're about 2 or 3 meters away from you, and you know you can run and grab them away from getting run over. When you know that you can do that, you're looking at them right from, they're seconds away from being hit by a car, and you can run a couple of steps and grab them away from that accident, from that death. Would you think twice? Would you ever think twice? You wouldn't. You wouldn't. And this is what speaking is about. Like so many, speaking from the heart is about knowing that the people that are listening to you, they could have been thinking about taking their life away the day before. They could have been moments away from throwing themselves off to the cliff. And I'm not being extreme here. This has happened to many people, to many speakers. I know one of the speakers that I really admire, which is Lisa Nichols, and she tells this story that she had a member of her audience who wrote to her that, thank you for what you said, because just before I was at your live event, I was about to take my life, but you saved my life. And that's what speaking from your heart is about. So the next time you notice that you want to say something, for example, let's say you have a small group or you have a community on social media, and you want to share something so important that you've done in your life, that you've overcome in your life, and this thing has really saved you. Remember that people want to hear that. And if you pull back from sharing that because you're afraid that people will judge you for the way that you speak, or that you might be ridiculed, or some family members might disown you, remember that you are about to save a life when you say something. You are about to become someone's salvation, someone's hope, someone's inspiration. And so fear is it's a shadow side of us that wants to keep us in our small self, and it's not empowering. It's really not, it's not giving you your full potential. So the next time when you feel the fear, feel into it anyway, but know that it's just a reminder that the fact that that's there, it means that you are going to be someone's salvation. And speaking from your heart, sharing from your heart, sharing the truth, doesn't matter how you're going to deliver it. Remember the the intention, the 55% body language, 38% voice tonality, the energy that goes with whatever words you pick. And so if this is resonating with you, what I'd love for you to do this morning is to check out my group and join me. It's a group called How to Speak from Your Heart and Amplify Your Impact for coaches, healers, and female entrepreneurs. So the link for the group is in the comments or in the description of this video. And currently the name of that group technically is about spiritual healing, but it's about to change in a few days. And it is how to speak from your heart and create more impact in your life and business as a coach, as a healer, as a female entrepreneur. And if you're watching this on replay, just hashtag replay. And yeah, so Ellen is sharing with us October is Domestic Violence Month. Yeah. So yeah, Ellen, it's a time when awareness on people who had experienced domestic violences, as all of you here would be aware that domestic violence is not just physical violence. I used to be a victim of domestic violence, emotional violence, financial violence, mental violence, and all sorts of things. And people like me, for example, 10 years ago, I used to be so quiet about my violence experience. I didn't know how I can ask for help. So I actually went around during my day looking very successful. I was a banker. And from the outside, it looked like I had everything put together. And you could never tell because I didn't know that what I was going through is something that other people are going through as well. I thought it was my fault. And if someone was there speaking their truth, I would have been made aware that I deserve better. It wasn't until years later when I became aware through a near-death experience. Now, here's the thing, for most of you who has lessons to share with other people, the thing that you want to do is you want to encourage people to not wait for their kairos moment, for their near-death experience, for their extreme moment of life catalyst, so that they may lose their life or they may lose something very important before they wake up to themselves. Inspiration and motivation is something that we need to have in very digestible bite-sized pieces each and every day. And it is our job as coaches and healers and as entrepreneurs to share our truth, because people out there are waiting. So 10 years ago, if I would have heard someone shared about their story that they have overcome domestic violence, and Ellen, I'm speaking directly to you from your comment here, I would have become aware that I can change my life a lot earlier on. And imagine how many women like you and I are waiting to hear your message. And that's why it's really got nothing to do. And then the next point in how to speak your heart from your heart is that speaking has very little to do with you as a speaker. Very little to do with you as a speaker. Speaking from your heart is mostly a lot to do with your listeners. Mostly a lot to do with your listeners. I'll say speaking from your heart, whether on stage or on camera, is 1% to do with you as a speaker and 99% to do with the listener. And what do I mean by this? So I'll ask you right now, if you're listening to me, you're listening because you want to see if what I have to say is something that you can resonate with, or something that is important for you, or something that you want to hear because you want to find out more about the information, about the ideas that I'm sharing. But you're not sitting there thinking, I'm going to sit here because that's Grace speaking. It's not really. You're sitting there listening because I'm sitting here because I wonder what she means about that idea. I'm sitting here because that story is so interesting. I've heard that before from someone else, and I don't know why, but I believe that this story might not be isolated story. You're sitting there because you're thinking, wow, that information is a little bit radical. I want to hear more. So speaking from your heart is 1% to do with you and 99% to do with your listener. And that's so when the next time you are in fear of, oh, they're gonna laugh at me, they're not gonna want to listen to me, I'm gonna be embarrassed, I'm gonna be judged if I ever say a word that's, if I ever pronounce a word incorrectly, or I forget to say something. That's your small self talking. There's a story that Oprah Winfrey loves to share. When she was she was new into news when she was about 19, 20 years old. You might have heard this story, but she shares that when she first joined the media industry when she was 18 or 19 years old, Oprah Winfrey's idols, one of the people that she looked up to was Barbara Walters. And so in the beginning, she thought that she had to channel Barbara Walters and speak like Barbara Walters and be like Barbara Walters. And so that's what she was trying to do, is instead of sharing her true self, she was trying to she's trying to copy someone. And there was a moment when it could have been a make or break moment for her, because she was so intent in copying Barbara Walters that she one time had forgotten to read a copy before she was actually live on camera. And part of the copy was a discussion or a topic about Canada, well, the country that's just above the United States if you're from the United States. And at the time, she has never heard of Canada. And so she has not practiced how to say the word or the name of the country. And live on camera, she actually said Canada instead of Canada. And, when she realized what she had done, she took the leap of faith of laughing at herself, because that was funny. And that's what I want to share with you is I had the same experience, not directly, but about 2 months ago, I was in a live event where someone was sharing information and techniques and strategies on how to grow your business. And this gentleman is very successful. He's a 7-figure coach, and he's on stage and he's been speaking for hours, and he's at a late night last night, like she's preparing for the event. So it gets tiring doing that, yes? And so part of what he was trying to share was about a business that he mentored, a veterinarian business selling everything about dogs, dogs' clothes, dogs' food, dogs this. And so he was saying something like quality bones for your dogs. And that was the right product, quality bones for your dogs. But he was pretty tired, and he said something like quality balls for your dogs. So it was really funny, and the entire room just burst into this laughing fit, because instead of quality bones for your dogs, he said quality balls for your dogs. And we were just like, yeah, we had this probably 4-second belly laugh. And here's the thing, because the speaker on stage already was a little bit tired. He was 4 hours into speaking. He didn't get the joke on himself, right? Have you ever heard that song from, I think it was one of the Beatles, I started to cry. But there's a part there that says the joke was on me. Well, you've got to take the joke on and laugh at yourself. Own the funny thing. Own that you are funny, because you're going to make mistakes. You laugh at yourself, because when you do, you lighten yourself up. You put yourself back in a state of sharing and speaking from your heart. But what happened was, because I as a speaker trainer, I was laughing. And when he said quality bones for your dogs instead of quality bones for your dogs, he actually he was taken aback by his own error, and he was a little bit defensive. So when we laughed, when the audience laughed at him, he was a little bit defensive and said, "You have to pardon me, okay? It's been hours, and it's been full on today, so I'm allowed to make mistakes." So he was a bit staunch about it, and my heart went out to him. My heart went out to him, because that's going to happen to you as a speaker who's sharing and just speaking from your heart. But always remember to own the funny thing. Know that you are funny. Know that you can be funny, that you can make mistakes, and own that, because that's what we're here for, is to have fun and to grow and to make people laugh. Like, And it's going to be part of your growth as well. When you can make people laugh, that's when you've actually switched your state to an elevated state of listening more. Because when they're not in any state, your listeners, they're just sitting there, they can really get bored, they can really get sleepy, and their bums are gonna hurt. And whether that's whether you're on stage or on camera on Zoom or live on Facebook, their bums are gonna hurt and they're gonna get sleepy. You've got to create state, and even if that state means that you have to make fun of yourself and laugh at yourself so that they laugh with you, it's worth it. It's worth it. So if this is resonating with you, if you are a coach who's just starting in your journey, or a healer who's starting in your journey, or an entrepreneur, you might have an MLM business, you might have an Amazon, a drop shipping business, and you're wanting to really make a difference in what you're producing and serving people, and really amplify the unique differentiating value that you have to offer. Learning to speak from your heart is your vehicle, is your portal to reach your right audience. And you might also be an experienced healer, an experienced coach, or an experienced entrepreneur, but you're finding that in your years of experience, you're evolving deeper into what you really want to share the world. And your message is becoming so deep. You're discovering things about yourself that you may not have been willing to discover about you a while back. You may have been you may have been dipping your toes into your very own core message a year ago because you didn't want to go too deep, you didn't want to be too vulnerable, but now you're ready, you're experienced, and you want a community to help you with that. Join my group. It's a how to speak from your heart to amplify your impact for coaches, healers, and entrepreneurs. Join the group, which is it's in the description of this video, because I want to give you hacks on speaking from your heart on a regular basis. Let's create this community, because I'm so passionate about this as a person who has grown up suppressing my own truth, because I have been so afraid to be further isolated, further abandoned, further not belonging, further unloved by the very people who had hurt me to begin with. That's really my shadow self was saying to me, you're not worthy of speaking the truth because no one loved you to start with. And if I had ever listened to that fear of being judged, I would still be swimming in my own limbo of, do you know when you have that feeling of you just want to share your truth, you don't care, you just want to scream, you just want to. I have a friend who has actually created an anonymous WordPress website because that's the way she can speak her truth. And this anonymous WordPress website, nobody knows about it, not even her family or friends. And I don't even know about it. And we have been friends for over 20 years. But she tells me that this anonymous WordPress website is where she speaks her truth. And one day, she's going to be able to be vulnerable enough to speak her truth at an elevated level where it might not be anonymous anymore. But when you're someone who's called to speak and you're listening right now, it's because the importance of your message is as important as when you needed to hear that, when you learned your lesson and it saved your life. And so I guess the last point that I wanted to create here, and I've got a couple of notes here, is that when you try to speak from your heart, and sometimes there's so much interference, there's so much thinking going on as to what do you share first and how do you share it. The very thing that makes you think, the very thing that makes you wonder what to say and how to say it, is the very thing that's blocking you from speaking from your heart. So what I'd encourage you to do is connect with your heart, and however that may look like for you. It might be meditation, it might be going out for a walk, it might be creating a power move before your actual speaking spot. So a power move is not really anything drastic. For me, power moves are just right, like moving. Like if it's speaking on stage, you'll find me at the backstage doing ballet moves. Like I'm not a ballet dancer whatsoever, but I just like to just, lift my limbs and just like open my body like this and just twirl around like a little girl. I just want to have I want my energy to actually to invade the whole space, the whole entire hall, the whole entire room, because that's how I remember the 55-38-7. 55% body language, 38% voice tonality, and your intention. When you begin your intention way before you speak, the energy is already flowing. So connect with your heart and detach from that mind, because that mind is going to be the very thing that's really blocking you from speaking from your heart. Now, I am very passionate about giving you hacks on how to become a heart-centered and heart-activated speaker. So make sure you join me in my group, facebook.com/groups/Grace Harris. Again, that's facebook.com/groups/Grace Harris. I'm just going to check the comments below. So if yeah, Ellen says always laugh at yourself. Isn't it? Laughing is what did they say in the old Reader's Digest? I don't know if Reader's Digest is still in publication right now, but laughter is the best medicine. And so in speaking, it's always laughter, dancing, moving, and changing the state of yourself and your audience. So today, it's been so much fun being able to share this with you. And I would love to be able to share more hacks with you next week, same time. And also in my private Facebook group, facebook.com/groups/ Grace Harris. I'm Grace Harris. I'm your host for today. For those of you who have been watching in replay, please #replay, and I will speak to you again same time next week for more speaking hacks on how to speak from your heart to create more impact for coaches, healers, and female entrepreneurs. Bye everybody. Have a beautiful day.